By definition, per the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition, justice is the maintenance or administration of what is just, especially based by the impartial adjustment of conflicting claims or the assignment of merited rewards or punishment. In layman terms, it is simply a decision made fairly against or for another person based on objective fact. Like most metaphysical facets of life, laws, theories, they are all belief systems and subject to interpretation by the people that they govern. Two such people that actually have separate interpretations of these particular facets of life are John Rawls and Brian Barry, to name a few, spoke their own theories on justice. For me, I am no philosopher, but to me, justice has its own meaning, just like it does to you. The act of judging a person and yourself objectively based on their own actions and pure fact of the situation. For me, my definition of justice is pretty much the same as the dictionaries, really. I believe that understanding the fact that justice is not perfect, and for each factor of justice and each of justice's foundations, they all apply based on the situation that the person or moment being judged is in. An example of this, although not perfect, when in political war or violence, torture, murder, and war, if a man plans to bomb a school, if a man plans to bomb a school, and he's part of a cult called the Legion or something, they have committed several murders in the name of overtaking society. If the FBI captures the alleged attacker and he says that he and his group will detonate a bomb but won't say where it is, torture may be reasonable to save hundreds of lives from a bombing. And his captors have to decide whether it'll be humane or just to actually torture the man to get the information out versus interrogating him based on the situation. Also, they have to consider that they can't let the public know that they're going against their own humane laws by probably physically and mentally harming this man to a severe extent. However, in a case where there is no threat, he is captured and we need info over time because there is no threat of retaliation for capturing one of their own. Imprisonment and basic interrogation may be reasonable, although torture may be viable to get more information if they so deem it fit to do so. I believe impartiality is a good foundation of justice. This is also the same as Rawls' ideology, and I genuinely feel as though it aligns with how I feel justice works best. Now, of course, I have the belief that justice is entirely situational, but Rawls' system in an imperfect system seems to offer a fair means of distribution of rights to all. His principles are as follows. Rawls believed in the justice of fairness. The basis of the idea rests on the idea of social contracts. Um, Now, it was the idea of an implied or a hypothetical agreement, kind of like one of those unspoken or spoken bonds by the individuals in a society. Um, the people between the contracts will be the members and participate in that society. Um, Pieces of this or components of it would be mutual well-being, safety, protection, security of person and property. Um, Now, this was also called, or what he called, the original position. Um, the people in the original position would have equal rights and equal power between them. The most important part of this for Rawls in establishing the original position was that none of the people involved know any key features about themselves or anyone else. Now, there were five key things that they couldn't let each other know, so that none of them had any more power over the other one or could use those secrets to blackmail or as a stepping stone for more power in the agreement. Because at that point, it wouldn't be fair, they wouldn't be equal. They couldn't know each other's position in society, so they couldn't really know anything like where the other one worked at, and how much the other one made, or where they stood socially. They couldn't know who was bigger or stronger than the other one. They couldn't know strength or physical ability. They couldn't know each other's intelligence, gender, race, religion, or ethnicity either. This is what was called the veil of ignorance. As I said, they used the veil of ignorance to ensure that the other ones couldn't get a step up on the others or anyone else. Now, they knew important features of society, but nothing about their own personal connection to it. So they just couldn't know each other's personal information, but they could know things about the information about the society around them. Now, Rawls had two key principles of justice. He believed that that was built through the original position and the veil of ignorance. These two principles were that each person is to have an equal right to the most extensive basic liberty compatible with similar liberties of others, and social economic inequalities are to be arranged so that they both reach A, to the greatest benefit of the least advantages, and B, attachments to the offices and positions open to all under conditions of fair equality of opportunity. So pretty much everyone had a chance to get where they wanted to go. Now, the first principle establishes a framework and boundary for individual rights, like freedom of speech. So basically, you can say something to me, but I don't have to listen to you as long as I'm not slandering you. And the second is the essence of the second principle is equal opportunity. Regardless of differences, race, gender, sexual orientation, um, the position within society, um, anyone has the opportunity to get anything so long as they work for it, which is the backbone of America in general, I believe. Two key features of global and economic justice are libertarianism and egalitarianism. Um, Now, libertarianism emphasizes individual liberties and negative rights. From this viewpoint, there are a few, if any, duties to help others. If one helps another person, it is an act of charity. And egalitarianism, this view holds that justice requires equal distribution of goods among everyone. There are many degrees to egalitarianism, and some hold that all goods should be distributed equally, but it is more common for this to be limited in some capacity. Typically, these views hold that some or all resources identified as essential, such as food, shelter, and medicine, are equally distributed. Now, these two key features of global economic justice, although I won't go into detail, are actually spoken spoken very well between two such philosophers, Garrett Hardin and Peter Singer. Um, Garrett Hardin more or less believed that the rich society should not help the poor society. He believed that it was an actual direct danger to richer countries to assist anyone who's poor. In that case, he would probably be a libertarian. A prominent egalitarian would be Peter Singer, who believed that if one can help, one should help. Now, war and violence also fall under the same umbrella as all the other factors of justice. They actually do have parallels with one another. Um, first of all, they both have political grounds, in which case there are times where both war and violence are needed, such as in the case of World War II, where crimes against humanity were being openly or openly activated by one or a few very dangerous people or very dangerous leaders. Um, Now, the specific question that was asked for this presentation was, what are some parallels between war and violence? And for one, as I said, it's very situational with all, as is with all justice. And the most prominent one is that both war and violence both need to be justified. Now, there are 6 key points that are brought up in class, whereas it's the cause for both war and violence must be just. War must be sanctioned by the proper authorities. And as I see, the good resulting from war and both violence, in my opinion, must be proportionate to the bad. In which case, don't kill somebody and don't cause war unless you're going to gain as much as you would. Okay, and now we come to the end of our presentation. Um, Now, I believe that although it's a bit unorthodox in my opinion, I feel like finding the right way to fight for a cause is the main issue of all of social justice. Um, Social justice focuses so much more on racism nowadays that it is pushing in on its own initial adversary so strongly that they're becoming racist against that particular adversary. Um, these are actually 2 issues in one for me, or in my opinion, because racism and the how to fight against racism are making social justice pretty much break at the seams. An example is the idea of white privilege. It's so devastating that it has bred racist ideals, such as an ideology that it is impossible to be racist against white people. This is important because if in our fight to stop racism against minorities, such as black people, Mexican, Spanish people in general, we discriminate against another race or group of people, which is white people, we literally just took steps to walk to the same destination that we are already standing in. Racism is wrong no matter who it is against. Now, I don't want to go too deeply into this because it's a lot of research, and this video has gotten long enough as it is. But to see an example of what I was just talking about, you can look up a video called Dear White People, or a TV show called Dear White People that was done by MTV, and it is currently on Netflix. It is pretty much a show bashing white people because they're privileged, and talking about how certain white people feel bad walking into certain buildings because they're white and they're not being discriminated against. You can also look up a speaker called Ben Shapiro who speaks beautifully about it. Okay, thank you and have a nice day.